human beings...
So there was panic?
Well, to a small extent, there might have been, because you see, humans are humans everywhere. And when something happens, I've heard of people wanting to go away from the area, from Kiev, but I mean, it's only natural.
The mouth from Moscow, Joe Adamov, is paid to push this Kremlin line.
I can't say that there was any panic to any great degree, no.
But listen to this secret conversation with an ordinary Russian. Was there a great panic in Kiev?
Yeah, it was pretty big. Everybody tried just to save their children and just maybe some of themselves. And, it was real difficult to get a ticket real, but and sometimes people paid about 100 rubles instead of 15. It's legal price for a ticket in Moscow and train.
That's over $100 for a train ticket.
Yeah.
There are now military checkpoints for 100 kilometres around the Chernobyl plant. We haven't been permitted to go anywhere near that area, and quite frankly, it'd be a pointless risk. The only ones who are still there are the nuclear clean-up crews, the plant operators, and the soldiers who are on those checkpoints. What we have learned after 3 weeks travelling around the Soviet Union is that most people here are frighteningly ignorant of the real hazards of this worst nuclear accident. We were told about 250,000 people from the Chernobyl area had been evacuated to these Ukrainian towns to the south. When we asked to speak to some of them, the Soviets produced 2 women, nicely groomed and nicely rehearsed. Do you think that the Soviet authorities have lied to you or misled you about Chernobyl?
The Soviet government, I think, took the correct steps after the accident happened. I believe the government gave people the right and timely information about the necessary preventative measures they should take.
So what did you do? What precautions did you take?
You wear something to cover your head, and when you come back into your house, take off all your exposed clothing and wash it, the soles of your shoes especially. And you make sure you wash yourself with warm water and clean your flat 3 times a day.
Do you think that you and Vladislav may have been contaminated by radiation?
We're feeling fine and we don't think there's any danger.
With Communist Party officials hanging on every word, the women naturally said they had no complaints. To get away from the minders and hear uncensored comments, you've got to find a very safe place. I've had to climb up here to get a chance to tell you what's really going on. We've had either the KGB or local police looking over our shoulder every time we've tried to speak to the Russians in public about the Chernobyl accident. But not everyone has swallowed those stories from Moscow that this greatest industrial accident in human history is just an invention, an exaggeration of Western propaganda. One man who lived between the city of Kiev and the Chernobyl reactor has taken a great risk to meet us secretly to tell us what he's seen. We won't be showing his face because he's afraid of the consequences for himself and for his family. They've already lost their home and they believe they've been contaminated by radiation. Do you think you have been affected?
A little bit, because everybody been affected, because I don't have a chance, but a friend of mine, he had radiation on him. He wore the dust on a t-shirt and the trousers, just on the boots,
He was covered in radioactive dust.
Yeah. Everybody had, I think everybody, but everything depends how much.
Why did the Soviet Union try to hide the full extent of the Chernobyl disaster?
We didn't. No, you're putting it the wrong way, Jeff. We didn't hide anything.
But they sure tried to hide it. And what the Kremlin spokesmen find impossible to explain away is why millions of Russians first heard of the disaster from the West. Well, something went horribly wrong with the system then, because it was Sweden that gave the alarm.
Of course, you see, the Sweden gave the alarm because they saw a rise in radioactivity.
But the Soviet Union at first denied that there had been a nuclear accident.
No, we did not deny that anything happened that way. I had never heard of such a thing at all.
The Swedes say you did.
Well, they can, again, you see, we're the focus of evil, according to Mr. Reagan.
April the 26th, there's the Chernobyl explosion. It's not till April the 28th that you hear about it on television,
Right.
and it's April the 30th before Pravda, your newspaper,
Right.
reports it.
Right.
Why the delay?
You cannot release information when you yourself are not sure of what happened.
How about a warning then?
The warning was given on the third day. And incidentally, why wasn't such a big noise made about the fact that when the 3 Mile Island accident happened, the Congress was only warned on the 10th day, and the International Agency 2 months later?
That is not true at all.
That is true.
I reported on the 3 Mile Isle accident in America. I know there was an outcry hours after the accident.
Congress was warned on the 10th day. I assure you, and the International Atomic Agency 2 months later.
Congress knew about it the day that it happened because it was reported in the American media the first day. Something quite different. You learned about it 3 days later, you just said.
Had we released something on the day it happened, can you imagine the panic and the anti-Sovietism that would have been piled on our heads as a result?
You won't hear much on their little red box about Chernobyl, which is why there are so many crazy rumours about the nuclear accident. We've met people who think that radiation is a contagious disease, so they have to bury the victims of Chernobyl miles under the ground in lead coffins. Other people said there's nothing to worry about. The crops are growing taller than ever around Chernobyl. But the most bizarre rumour that we've heard is the best way to head off radiation sickness is to drink lots of vodka or this special brand of red wine. It must be a hell of a good vintage. Chernobyl 86. The fallout spread a lot further than the Russian farmlands. From the Mediterranean to the North Sea, farmers have been complaining about contamination of their crops and animals. Some countries were so worried about Chernobyl, they cancelled imports from Russia. But go to any country market in the Soviet Union and ask the manager, is there any radiation? The answer is always the same. It's a Western lie. In the West, some countries as far away as Britain, Italy, Sweden are finding radiation in lambs and the contamination of their crops, but you say that there's no radiation here in the Soviet Union.
The Soviet press recently, 2 or 3 days ago, told us how the accident was still being blamed for radiation in other countries like Italy, West Germany and Sweden a month after it happened. It's obvious now these countries have been lying to their own citizens, that radiation levels blamed on Chernobyl were actually from their own radiation leaks. It's because of their own accidents that their radiation levels have increased.
As this woman said, go ahead, take a bite of the fruit. There's nothing to worry about. Why have farmers in Scotland taken their lambs off the market?
It's not the farmers of Scotland, it's the government of England. A big difference.
But marketing authorities in some of those countries have found sufficiently worrisome
How do you know that
levels of
radiation came from Chernobyl and not from Ham, West Germany, who hid the whole affair completely? And why did this affair...
Well, because it was reported before the West German accident had happened.
What was reported?
That lambs had been contaminated in Scotland, that fruit and vegetables were contaminated as far away as Italy.
Well, why don't they get the International Agency to go and see what it's all about? I mean, you see, this is... I am living in this country. I'm so used to having all the horrors and all the evils of the world piled on us that this is just another case.
Isn't it a great conceit for a superpower like yours not to warn your neighbours that something has gone wrong? What about their children?
What is there to warn about, Jeff? One of our scientists, he is a member of the Academy of Sciences, Feoktistov, not the cosmonaut, the scientist Feoktistov, said that the harm to health of people in the West, the total harm of the whole explosion, including Scandinavia, is equivalent to 3 cigarettes smoked.
There are plenty of other authorities, like Sweden's Institute of Radiation, that have predicted there may be 10,000 to 20,000 cancers as a result of Chernobyl.
Well, if so far away of Sweden that's the case, then according to them, half of Moscow ought to have cancer.
What about women who were pregnant at the time of the Chernobyl accident? Do they understand that there has been a danger to them?
And I've heard about that for women who just pregnancy, it would be better to make more abortions for them, you know, just to advise them to do abortions. You know?
They were told by the government to go and have an abortion.
Yeah, just government told them that it would be better to make abortions.
The risk of future cancers is not something you'll read about in the party newspapers posted up every day in the streets. When I tried to gently warn these women from Kiev that an American specialist had said up to 50,000 people may be irradiated, they just wouldn't believe it.
If that's the truth, I just don't want to believe it. I want people to be healthy and to live.
What about the future and of little girls like this one? Do you think that Chernobyl has threatened her future?
This little girl's going to be beautiful, and she'll grow up to be a specialist one day. She'll be healthy and beautiful. Please, come back in 10 years to admire her and go to her wedding.
Do you think you know what's happening? Do you think you have the full information on Chernobyl?
I am absolutely sure that we know that the radiation level in the 30-kilometer zone around Chernobyl is in many places down to normal. People are coming back to their homes. We wouldn't let them come back to their homes.
If Moscow says it's time to go home to Chernobyl, most Russians will do what they're told. But the man we taped secretly said he's scared of the future because he believes he's been told only half the truth. You come from Kiev. Do you think you'll ever go to live there again?
I would like to move to another city. I'll try to move because, you know, I'm sure that the dust of radiation and the old just, you know, like rain radiation will just put down in our city, and the people will die after 2 years, become cancers, and after 10 years it would be just mostly of people gonna die, I think.
It's the children of Chernobyl who may pay the heaviest cost. This group was evacuated to what they call a young pioneers camp on the Black Sea. No one knows how many children and unborn babies will be affected by the radiation. We have been told Communist Party officials and military officers got their children out first. They looked after themselves. But in this country, the men right at the top have washed their hands of the real responsibility for the Chernobyl disaster.
You want a prime minister to speak up about something that even the scientists could not assess. I just already told you today that to this day, we don't know the real reasons for what had happened.
Is your country going to reconsider any of your nuclear power plans?
Well, we won't cut them down in any way. We believe that, and most of the scientists in the world believe that nuclear energy is the energy of the future. We just have to have more guarantees that such things don't happen again. We have to see that the designs are improved, the construction is improved, safety measures are improved, the human factor is improved. In other words, to cut the chances down to the absolute minimum. Then we'll feel more or less safe.
Hello, I'm Liz Hayes. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.